What's up, everybody? I'm actually just going to give me a few seconds so I can actually start getting everything together because tonight I'm going to do again another podcast. I'm going to do it live, and I'm going to do another one earlier in the morning. Another podcast. I'm going to do it live, and I'm going to do another one. There we go, and got this consecutive echo. All right. Give about another 20 seconds, and then we're going to start. And before we start, I'm gonna hit me a little bit of this Jack. I don't have much tonight. Got a little taste. Ah, that's pretty good. Anyway, tonight I'm going to be talking about pulled over and search, understanding your Fourth Amendment rights. Now, again, this is part of the series that I started earlier because I did it with the context of the life in its mirroring chess. Well, in this, we're going to more focus on Fourth Amendment violations during traffic stops and some effective court defenses. And again, welcome everybody to the episode. And the Fourth Amendment actually reads, for the right of the people to be secure in their persons, place, and property, and it shall not be violated. This is one thing that police officers take an actual oath to. They literally sign a piece of paper and they file that piece of paper for court. And when they do that, that becomes a breach of their fiduciary duty because their agreement is to become the the trust holder of the people. Because most people don't understand that the Constitution itself is a trust document. That is why it's filed and it's an oath and all that good stuff. But again, it's something we get into when it deals with the federal court system. Now, how knowing your rights is like protecting your king in chess because every move matters. Now, I say that because I did things and I talked about openings. A lot of times that's where the first mistakes are made because we have people that'll wait for the last minute and before they'll actually attempt to create something, or they'll wait till the day before their court date. Some people actually wait until after they've gone to court the first time before they say, okay, well, maybe I need to do something. Well, when you get that ticket, that contract to fight, that's when you should start. That's when you should be on the phone or in my emails and saying, hey, Rich, I got this. What can I do? Where do we need to go from there? But that's part of what this goes into. Because again, this becomes a situation from the Bill of Rights, which was our response to Britain's writs of assistance. Because freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures are the key points in any Fourth Amendment violation and also the crux of any traffic stop. Because oftentimes you'll see someone when they're stopped, they're told to get out the vehicle, or because I've actually seen this more often than not, a police officer will run up to someone's conveyance and automatically grab the door, which is again a violation. And most people kind of overlook it because it's a police officer doing it. Now, the problem with that is there are no exigent circumstances, or that police officer has to explain what exigent circumstances allowed them to go beyond their scope of duty. So these are the things that we're going to talk about today. And as we go along, I hope you're, writing things down and getting these notes and making sure we're understanding something as simple as the warrant requirement of probable cause. And me going back and talking about the court case in which it says police officers don't know what probable cause is. So it's best for them to get the warrant, and it's also best for you not to speak nor give consent because of the way that police officers are asking questions. Now, when it applies to traffic stops, there are certain exceptions. Most common is the plain view doctrine, which is why whenever you get out the conveyance, I've had it happen to me over 50 times. Every time that I've gotten out the car, if I'm able to, because a couple times I just wasn't able to, I actually would kick the door closed or get out the car, lock the door, keep the keys on you. Because again, searching you, a pat down, as they like to say, is still a search. And if they're patting you down, they must believe that you have a weapon, and they must have an ability to point to that area in which they believe that weapon is being held. If not, this is something that you can challenge, because just idly patting you down or searching you without consent, without a warrant, without all these extra things are violations. And just like a chessboard, the law has rules of engagement. Yes, I'm gonna say that one more time, because you remember I just spoke in the last podcast where I spoke about they are confined to a box. They can't go outside that box, and if they do, it is now up to you to hold them accountable for that. And your car is your rook, and every motion, it deserves protection. Because remember, the ideals of the king is to survive and be protected by everything that's around you. Now, enforcement of the rules, which are their rules, is a means of protection. So now, the common search or common search violations during traffic stops. Let me kind of give you a breakdown of the real world violations. Basically, just like I just spoke about, the no probable cause or reasonable suspicion. Now, a lot of times when you hear police officers use the context of reasonable suspicion, they forget the rest of that. Because remember, the biggest words in law, if and or. And reasonable suspicion continues to read of a crime. Because where's the only place probable cause can come from? A crime. So in order for them to have probable cause, there has to be a crime. They must also be able to articulate said crime, because a crime has a victim. Why do we know that? Allen B. Wright. Because in order to have standing, there must be an injury. These are not, again, not things I'm making up. These are the things that are actually within that box they have to stay in, which is why officers cannot use hunch. I'm saying that officers cannot use a hunch. Oh, I think I smell marijuana. Oh, is that alcohol on your breath? Have you been drinking? All of those are trying to solicit a confession of a crime in which they can arrest for, because you are going to volunteer it. Oh, you believe you smell alcohol? Great. Go ahead and get the warrant and see if you can get the rest of this. And here's the thing, because I actually had this happen today. I'm going to do a short video on it, but I'm going to get back on it too. There's a situation where you're stopped and the officer says, well, I smell marijuana, or do you have anything in the car that you shouldn't have? I want to call the K9 unit. Now, what the officer is attempting to do is get your permission to extend the traffic stop. Your answer is, due to the advice of counsel and my Fifth Amendment rights, I choose not to answer this or any other questions. I actually did the video on that. You don't talk, and I don't give consent. I do not consent. I do not consent. I do not consent. Because if they say, man, do what you want to do, you've just implied that they have consent to now extend the traffic stop and have a 80% chance of a false indoctrination from the dog. Because the dogs miss 80% of the time. I'm going to say that the dogs miss 80% of the time, and you just allowed them to have you sitting in a spot longer than the 15-minute allotted lawful time that they can inconvenience you. Because instead of answering, I do not answer questions, I do not consent, or due to the Fifth Amendment and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this one or any other questions. And again, I always say people have the right to remain silent. Few have the actual ability to, because we have been indoctrinated to believe that we must answer everything that someone in a uniform asks. But what if they do this? But what if they do that? When they do something that's outside of that box, you hold them accountable for it. And actually, one of the things I used to say, you tap those pockets, because they are no longer acting as an agent of the government. So you don't have to worry about hitting the tax dollars. You go ahead and take that pension. You go ahead and make sure they're sitting down. You go ahead and make sure you're seizing assets, because I always tell you, they're not doing something one time. They're doing something that they've gotten away with many times. I'm gonna say they're not doing something for the first time. They're doing it because they've gotten away with it many times, or some version of it, because just like a child, they continue to escalate until they're corrected for it. And most times they're not corrected. And even when we're talking about the traffic violations, a lot of times they'll say, oh, I'll tell you once you give me your license. Actually, no, you're going to tell me now prior to. Because if there is no infraction, they don't have a legal or lawful reason to stop you, which now makes the stop itself illegal. And anything that happens beyond that is also fruit of the poisonous tree. Now, when we go into the unlawful searches of vehicles, because they're searching without consent, they're searching without probable cause, they're searching without plain view, and they're searching without a warrant. Because again, they're doing things that are outside that box. Always keep that in mind. And the pretext was stops. Because whether we like it or not, there are things that are called racially based driving. Here in Texas, here in Arizona, they're looking for lighter brown people. They're listening for Spanish speaking people. Back in Georgia, they're looking for dark skin. And even my father used to tell me, no more than 3 heads in the car. And again, it wasn't just white cops that was doing it. Because see, a lot of people misinterpret that I'm saying, okay, well, if you got 3 black people in the car, the white cop, no. If 3 heads in the car and all of them are brown, there's a good chance that all of those heads are hitting the ground. And it doesn't matter who's wearing the blue uniform, because most of them are confused at who the blue uniform actually represents. Because that's why I asked the question before, where is the blue wall? I've asked, where are the good cops? Because I asked these questions because there are context behind it. And then I did that for an hour. But you know what never happened? No one ever answered that question. Because the second you have to sit down and understand that the machine that you're representing isn't doing the same representation for you, you now have to accept that you are not part of the side of good. Let's call it that. Right? So when we're going through these and we're using these pretexts, all of these are illegal stops. And they're profiling certain drivers, because I even spoke about that it's not a war on crime, it's a war on the poor. It's a duty to inconvenience, because 80% of our country is living paycheck to paycheck. So they're going after those people that will pay, and those that can't go to jail. And what happens when they go to jail? You're losing property, you're losing jobs. They're doing things that are systematically incorrect. And We actually had the conversation with a young lady the other day where we spoke about the prisoning system, our prisoning system. We have more than 2.1 million people in our prison system right now. We have more than 1.5 million people that are there that have not been convicted of a crime. They're there because they can't afford bail. I'm going to say that one more time. More than 75% of the people that are incarcerated in our prison system now, not there because they've been convicted of a crime. They're there because they can't make bail. That is part of the problem, because we're being jailed for things that aren't crimes, and then we're not fighting back because we're just sitting and accepting it. And then most people never tell a police officer to correct their behavior, and we just accept it as it is. And this is why I say, if you ever get into the situation, the pushback, if you're looking for change in the system, it doesn't take a bunch. Because we talked about the Minnesota. The national average is less than 5%. It's 4 and some change. But when he talked about the people that were arrested from the riots in Minnesota, what I tell you? It started at 5%. It dropped to less than 3%. It dropped to less than 1 out of 3. So the rest of those people took deals. They accepted records even if they were not part of the criminal activity that was taking place during those riots. They took deals. And these are the things that I speak against those. Because if we actually get 5%, that's the national average. If we raise it to 5 more percent, so it's 10% of people fighting back. One out of 10 people are saying, you know what, I'm not doing this. You gotta prove that I did this. It will completely change our judicial system. Doesn't take much, because even one man told me, he said, if you think you need great numbers to make an impact, he said, go spend the night in a room with one mosquito. Something small and you're big. That one mosquito will hit you enough to where you'll want to not be in that room anymore. That 10% changes the entire system, because now it starts from the judges to the prosecutors to now the police. They have to make a change. They have to do something different. And that's one of the things that, if we're looking to actually do that, that's what that challenging is for, doing something different. Now, prolonging the stop, and that was just about the thing that I was speaking about earlier. Stop should end once the reason is resolved, such as the speeding ticket, because it's 15 minutes. U.S. v. Sharp. Detaining someone longer to await for a canine without cause is illegal. I'm going to say that one more time. Detaining someone longer to await a canine is illegal if it is done without cause. And here's the great part about it. Most people never even go into this. Let's say the dog does hit. That does not automatically trigger exigent circumstances. That triggers an opportunity for a warrant. And if it's not done, because most people don't understand, once you're outside of arm's reach, or let's say you're handcuffed, you are no longer in a position to destroy any evidence. So therefore, the warrant is necessary, even if you haven't given consent, and even if the dog has made a hit, they still need a warrant. But they're not going to tell you that, because they want you to they want you to stay a slave. They want you to stay brainwashed. They want you to stay believing they have actual power when it's only implied because you give it to them. Because even the improper use of consent, the coercion or vague consent is not valid. I'm going to say that one. Coercion, when they say, you don't mind if I do that. And then you be like, no, you can't do that. Well, what is it you're hiding? That then becomes coercion. That then sets off fruit the poisonous tree, because now you cannot have a illegal or have a legal act follow an illegal one. But again, you have to point out the fact that you've already given, you don't have cause. What are we still doing here? And even when instances of that, the officer misleading people into agreeing to search, that is illegal. Because understand this. Someone stopped for a broken tail light. Now all of a sudden the officer's opening your trunk. Why is your trunk open if the tail light's broken? Why is the officer searching up under your spare tire if your tail light is broken? That is the pretext of the stop. Florida v. Jimeno, Jimno, and Rodriguez v. United States. These are illegal acts. They can't just use the pretext of one to actually say it's okay for the other. They actually have to have something in order to do the search. Now, one of my favorites is the motion to suppress. And that comes from Map B, Ohio. Because, again, a legal act cannot be preceded by an illegal one, which will be the coercion, which will be the non-exigent circumstances. Because anything found in the legal search is inadmissible. And we can challenge the probable cause, because what they're going to do is they're going to, oh, the dog hit. Well, the dog misses 80% of the time. So why are we trusting the dude that's hitting less than 20%? Like you get lucky 20% of the time, right? Horseshoes. That's basically what we're doing. Because prove that the initial stop lacked valid cause. Get the dash cam, body cam, or witness statements. Because again, these are even police officer notes. These are things that most people don't ever even look into. And this is also the very thing in which why I say piranha, don't eat piranha. These are the things that defense attorneys that you're paying aren't requesting. Why? Because they're waiting for the state to depend on it to eat. They're being spoon-fed, which is why they're so quick to say, hey, why don't you take this deal? Because you're guilty. Because that cop pulls he wouldn't do it unless you were guilty. And that's when you look at it and be like, there's this case that states that you have to do what I say, which is pretty much defend me and protect my innocence. Why are we not getting that police officer's Jiggly information? Why are we not learning about that police officer stops? Why are we not getting the body cam footage? Why are we not requesting these things? Why are we not? Because even if they go get a warrant, why are we not setting up a Frank's hearing? Because piranha don't eat piranha. And that's why you use me, because I'm an out-of-town shooter. Always remember that. I'm not part of their team. I'm not part of that mess. I'm not in that system. I just understand the context and the ways in and out of it. So therefore, I am not buddy-buddy with them. And they're still in that box. My operations go way beyond the box. And I make sure you're protected way beyond the box. Now, and proving coerced consent. Evidence that defendant didn't freely give consent. And that will be the multiple questions that are asked, like, well, can I search? No, you can't search. Well, what is it that you're hiding? There's evidence of coercion. And what that will be coming from, which is why you don't see them, is the body cam footage, the dash cam footage. Why the things that's supposed to be running? Or all of a sudden, oh, and that part, the audio wasn't working. That's why they don't want you recording, because they don't have control of your video. They have control of theirs, not yours. Because even they say, well, you were being furtive. 99.9% 99.9% of people have no idea what the word furtive means, other than the fact that doesn't mean you have probable cause for anything. Because again, it also does mean, since you're asking me a question and I look furtive, due to the advice of counsel and my rights under the Fifth Amendment, I refuse to answer this or any other question. Well, why don't you step out the car? Again, any actions that's done outside of the presence of counsel is now a coerced and forced action, which now means you're liable for anything that happens afterwards, because you've already been noted that I've asked for counsel. I used to actually have it in writing. And then an unlawful attention agreement proves the officer extended the stop without justification, which is why when they said, the worst thing you could do is say, well, I want a supervisor. Because they'll even ask, do you want a supervisor? Because the second you answer yes, you've just allowed the stop to extend. Your answer is always, due to the advice of counsel and my rights under the Fifth Amendment, I refuse to answer this or any other questions. And just because what happens is now the biggest weapon that you actually have is silence. Because again, our natural instinct is to fill those voids with words. If you're sitting there just staring at a person and they're yapping, they're nervous. Because people are not used to just sitting in absolute silence. They don't understand how to be with themselves in silence, in peace. Have no idea how to deal with it, because everybody is used to the day-to-day hustle and bustle and chaos. So even when you do that to a police officer in real time, they have no idea how to deal with that, which is why it angers them, which is why they can't control themselves. Because at the end of the day, when you're dealing with someone that is not prepared properly to do the job properly, they use intimidation tactics and they expect you comply. And when you don't, because you're following the law and making sure they stay in that box, it upsets them. Absolutely pause for dramatic effect, because I want you to understand exactly what it is that I'm saying. Because when you are getting to this point, how you hold them accountable is filing a civil rights lawsuit. Even if there is something that doesn't result in death, you can file a 1983 claim for unlawful search and seizure. There are other civil rights violations that you can file, even in those contexts, which offers less burdens of proof, but it still offers you the greatest context in which holding them accountable comes. And the best defense is often a strong first move, demanding a hearing to suppress early. I'm going to say that one more time. Your best defense is your greatest offense. If you must defend, defend by attacking. Your best defense is often your first move. Demand a hearing early, because that lets them know, I'm here, you here for a fight, and it's not going to be someone that's just going to lay down for it. And again, during the stop, there are certain questions that you're going to answer. And I hear this more often than not, but you can use it. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Well, no, you're not free to go. Great. I do not consent to any searches, and I choose to remain silent for the remainder of this stop. Record the counter if possible. One of the things I've told people, and I actually had it up for, I want to say, hell, it's been 6 years now, because in 2019, I actually I was telling everybody, you need a dash cam. If you're in a conveyance, you need a dash cam. Because it's not just for you. Because even in South Georgia, there was a young man who was an Uber driver. Trooper pulls him over and says, "Hey, you had your phone in your hand." He goes, he looks at him confused. He goes, "You do realize there's a dash cam right there, right?" "I never touched my phone. I ain't even pressed the button." So come to find out, that trooper had been writing a multitude of unlawful and wrong traffic citations. It's just so happened one caught him on video. I'm gonna say that again. A trooper was writing unlawful tickets. Why? Because he was trying to beat a quota. You know, the thing that people told me don't exist. Just one person happened to have a dash cam that recorded it and saw that he was lying. So now you can actually hold that trooper liable every time somebody he writes somebody a citation. They now can sue him because he's part of the Brady list. He is not a good cop. And we should treat him as such by challenging everything he does, because he is known to not be honest. He's known to be unlawful. He's known to do things against his oath. And these are the things that we also need to take account for. And ask for a reason for the stop. And here's the best part too. I always tell people, again, one of the things that allows you to stay focused, stay in the moment, is meditation. Now, I actually talk about pranayama on another one of my channel called The Energy Mover. But in the context with pranayama, it allows you to stay focused, allows you to stay in the moment. I always tell people, take note of the time. So like now, I would look up, and it would be the one thing that nothing is on, and it's 1:20 a.m. Then I'll look around for street signs. I'll look around for businesses. I even kind of glance around to see who has cameras, because just in case mine gets destroyed or unavailable, I've got a couple other stops that I can make. And then I'm starting to look for police car numbers. Damn the police officer, because the police officer is going to write something down that's illegible. So when I write that down, oh, I was at this intersection at this time on this date. Now I have something to work with, because now whenever I'm looking to hold this police officer liable, they don't have any wiggle room, because I can get that person wasn't on the stop. Cool, because this truck number was there and that truck number was there. Give me the GPS. I can now request in the discovery the GPS data of both of those vehicles. I don't need the officer. I need the vehicle logs and the GPS location, because it'll tell me who the officers were. And now I need police reports and scene reports from both officers. But again, here's my next question. Why aren't defense attorneys doing this? Because everyone can do it. It's the easy. Because piranha don't eat piranha. And that's where this comes from. But it's also understanding that when we're going at this, the right to challenge is the one thing you should be doing at all times. And a couple of cases that you can go on, because the easy one is Terryville, Ohio, but understanding the context of it. Because even in Terryville, Ohio, tell you a police officer is not able to use a hunch. They also tell you what they call, if an officer just yells, "Hey, stop, don't do this," and they're giving you instructions absent a crime, it's a show of authority stop. That is illegal, because they don't have power unless there's a crime. So if an officer is giving you instructions absent a crime, they are violating their oath, because they are servants. They are servants until there's a crime. So a servant can't give their master commands. Always understand that. Arizona v. Gant. A search incident to arrest must relate to the reason for the arrest. The search incident to arrest must relate to the actual reason for the arrest. And the K9, Illinois versus Caballos. The K9 use must not prolong the stop. They still have a certain amount of, they're still in that box unless you give them consent. Rodriguez on United States. An unlawful delay is a violation. Because you can argue with me all you want. These cases say otherwise. These cases are better. These are the things that allow me to inform you that the clear or clearly established law is there. Because they should have been trained on it. And if they weren't, that's an admission of negligence. Because they should have known. It's also an admission of incompetence. Because how you not learn law if you're law enforcement? Because if you don't know law as law enforcement, you are telling me you are incapable of doing your job properly because you are incompetent. These are the reasons you push back. Because just like I said before, you can't have someone go to these higher learning facilities for 7 years just to have the opportunity to take a test to become a lawyer, and then say a person who goes through a training for 6 weeks are equal. Yeah, I actually just, a police officer going training for 6 weeks, 9 weeks is not the equal of someone going to school for 7 years. The law doesn't work that unless you're telling me you got 7 years worth of learning in 9 weeks. This is why I say police officers don't have any clue what the law is, because they're not enforcing law. They're generating revenue. I don't make this stuff up. This is actually written. You can actually go check. Because the longest policing academy or learning that is done in this country is done here in Texas. And it's 11 months. But guess what? 11 months is still not equal to 7 years. They are still missing something. Because I even spoke about police officers here because they have quotas. They call them something different, but it's still a quota. They go out and just make up stuff because they know people aren't going to challenge it. And it's up to you to actually challenge it. Because if not, you're part of the problem by accepting it. And then you can't ask them to change their behavior because you are going along with it. Now, that was just a quick overview. You have rights, learn them, assert them, and defend them. Every traffic stop is a potential legal battleground. It's contract time. You choose if you want to show up at the arena and fight, or if you're just going to pay to allow them to keep doing the wrong that they're doing. So, like, subscribe, keep supporting your boy, hit the Cash App, all that good stuff. And I'm going to keep going. Let's keep growing. And Supreme, until the next one, I'm out.